Okay, I've started recording. Um, and thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate everybody's time. We have about an hour, but I can stay on longer if you have questions or would like to chat. And let's go ahead and get started. So, I want to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. First, what is research development? Research development is a field designed to help folks at all levels become better grant writers. And that can mean more successful communicators, advocates for their research. And we do this by creating resources, hosting trainings, and doing a lot of one-on-one work. So this is to say, the Office for Research Development is here to help you advance your research here at ISU. The big picture, what does research development mean at ISU? My goal is to create a self-sustaining culture of research, and I'm going to do that in three ways. First, we're going to share funding opportunities, grant writing tools, and other resources needed to support the research enterprise. We're going to build faculty grant seeking and grant writing capacity with individual and group training, such as this. And lastly, we're going to increase research partnerships at ISU and beyond. So any of these topics, if you have questions, feel free to reach out and engage our services. Research development is new at ISU, but we're already providing a lot of support and we've already helped faculty get applications out the door. In addition, I know there are quite a few grad students on this call, and we are currently collaborating with the School of Graduate Studies to provide unique opportunities just for graduate students. So keep an ear out for that. So that's me. A little bit about myself. I did my PhD, it feels wild to say, almost 10 years ago, at Western University. I studied the philosophy of science, but really did a lot of work in mental health nursing. Um, and I've also worked at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Bingham Memorial Hospital, and the United Way. So in higher education, in clinical settings, and in the nonprofit sector. And I did a lot of statewide and local projects below our two examples. And you all are always welcome to reach out and connect with me. I'm happy to meet folks and give support, coaching, whatever is really needed to help you advance your work. So, research development and sponsored programs. One thing that you need to know is as you work on and submit grants, you are always going to connect with the Office for Sponsored Programs. They will still work with you to submit every grant, and they are an invaluable resource. They help not just with submitting the grant, but with working through the NOFO or Notice of Funding Opportunity. Sometimes we also call that a solicitation. And they know a lot about the budgeting process and can help you throughout the grant life cycle. That's what the pre-award and post-award terminology is referring to. You can also visit the Office of Sponsored Programs website for a host of tools you can use to support your grant application. So now that we're done with that housekeeping, I want to go over a little bit of what we are going to learn today. So first, I want you all to leave this being able to define the grant life cycle at Idaho State University. I want you to have the ability to recognize and use key terms associated with grant seeking. We're going to be able to distinguish internal and external grants. We're going to also identify two grant databases that you have access to and identify strategies you can use to support successful searches for both of those databases. And we're going to describe some best practices to working with funders that will maximize your chance of getting a successful award. So, what is the grant life cycle? This is everything that an idea has to go through to be fully formulated, eventually awarded and funded. And then for that award to be carried out successfully, that's what we call the post-award phase, all the way through project closeout. Today, however, we're going to just focus on what we call the pre-award phase. And the pre-award phase covers everything from planning to partnership building, really building out your research team. And most grants require many partnerships. I was told during my graduate training that my dissertation would be the last project I would ever work on truly alone, and that was so true. Um, Searching for an award, meeting with program directors. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Thinking about how you write your application, and really everything in the research development space is going to fall into the pre-award category. And today we're going to focus on just a few of these. Planning, so how we put together our ideas, looking for an award, meeting with program directors, and of course, connecting with the Office of Sponsored Programs, because we always want to make sure we're successfully doing that. So, who funds research? We have two sources, broadly construed, internal grants. So those are things that are only available to folks here at ISU, and external grants. Those are available to folks inside and outside of ISU. So there are a variety of internal grants for faculty offered by the Office for Research. Importantly, your college might also offer grants through their dean's office, so keep an ear to the ground for those opportunities. But with the Office for Research, we have the seed grant and the small grant. The seed grant is 20,000, and the small grant, I believe, is like 5 to 10. That was already complete for this year, so you would need to look at that for next year. But the seed grant won't be due until midway through the spring semester. Those are reviewed by the Research Council, which is an arm of Faculty Senate. They then give their advice to the Office for Research, where awards are made official. We also have a variety of grants that ISU works on with other universities, and we can offer internal awards that way. So one of those examples is iCruise, and you can learn more at the website below. Kitty Griswold is the contact person, and there are current award openings for summer research available there. If you'd like more information, feel free to email me. My email will be at the end of the presentation, and I'd be happy to connect with you all. So, external grants. There are a lot of places we can get grants from. Foundations, corporate philanthropy, professional organizations, as well as public or federal sources. So, one note, corporate philanthropy, in some cases, those will be grants, and in some cases, those will be donations. Anything that does not require you to complete some kind of post-award reporting is going to go through the Office for Advancement. If you're not sure, this is where you connect with sponsored programs, and they'll be able to help you figure that out. There are some corporate philanthropy opportunities that identify as such, but given the reporting structure, might still need to come through the Office for Research and the Office for Sponsored Programs because they require significant post-award reporting. Professional organizations also offer grants. These are great ways to get started. So the APA, the American Psychological Association, for example, offers grants. Foundations. So this could be like the MJ Murdoch Charitable Trust. They offer grants to a variety of organizations, nonprofit, academic, and religious across the Pacific Northwest, including Idaho. And lastly, public or federal sources. So that could be through grants.gov. We'll go through two specific sources, the NSF and the NIH shortly. But any federal agency, the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, their grants will be referred to as public grants, but also the state of Idaho offers grants. You all can sign up for our grant update list by emailing me, and I can add you. And then on our website, when it goes live in a few weeks, you'll be able to sign up there as well. And I post grants from all of these sources on that based on my knowledge of faculty and grad student interest. So we're really trying to make sure if there's a great opportunity for you all, you know of it. And the more I get to know you all, the more I can help keep an eye out for grants that would be beneficial. So just another reason to come to my office and meet with me. So looking for grants, what is the first step? You have to know your funder. And my first piece of advice for you all is to find potential funders before you need them. So even if you're not ready to submit your first application, you can still start looking, take some downtime, and get to know who funds folks in your area. You can do that by signing up for newsletters from relevant agencies, getting on listservs in your discipline, and then just keeping an eye out when you're reading publications, for example. If somebody funded that research, they're typically going to require acknowledgement in the paper. So keep an eye out for that. I've actually found funders by watching public television. When I first moved to Idaho, I was watching PBS. I saw the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation. They gave their mission in a brief little spiel on PBS, looked it up, and was eventually able to get about $100,000 for some hospital equipment. So you never know when you are going to find a funder that's of interest, but when you start looking, you'll start noticing that they're actually around quite a bit. So keep your ear to the ground, look at what relevant colleagues are doing, and start thinking about what types of funders and what funding instrument they use, and get on those email lists, because then the right information is going to come to you as early as possible. And that's going to give you the lead time you need to be successful and have sufficient time to work with this office and to prepare a competitive application. You can also use databases to find grants and, importantly, to predict future grants and get notified. And I'm going to show you shortly how to do that. The key information is to search, save, and follow. The more you do that, the more you automate the process and make it easier on yourself. Lastly, get to know program directors and use the white paper process. We're going to come back to this over and over again. Program directors, especially at organizations like NIH and NSF, want to see you be successful, and they're going to know types of awards that within their agencies that you might also qualify for. They're going to be advocates for your work. And the same is true in smaller contexts. I've worked with funders at the state of Idaho, and they were some of our best advocates for funding. And whenever a good opportunity came across their desk, they made sure to pass it on. So networking here is really key to successfully finding a good opportunity. One important funder I want you all to be aware of is the National Science Foundation. This is an independent agency of the executive branch of the US government. And as you can see in the dark blue rectangles at the very bottom, they have a number of directorates. But importantly, those directorates can collaborate to support grant applications. They can also work with the office of the director or some of the offices off to the left-hand side to promote grant applications. So for example, the Office of Integrative Activities offers a grant called EPSCoR that we benefit from in Idaho. And they might collaborate with one or more of the directorates at the bottom. So that makes NSF a little bit of a complex organization, but this is why it's important to start browsing early, get to know who funds what where. So by the time you need it, you know more or less where to look. And under every directorate, there are subdirectorates that are much more specific about what they'll fund and where. So start here, drill down until you find the right one that applies to your research. Other information about NSF. So here is the NSF vision and mission. Like every other vision and mission statement, your vision statement is where you're going, and the mission statement is how you plan to get there. So with the vision statement, the NSF wants you to see what they're trying to build. So they want the US to be a world leader in science that benefits everybody. And they plan to do that by expanding knowledge and increasing the research capacity, particularly around STEM disciplines, within the US. Importantly, NSF funds basic scientific research. However, as you can see in the diagram to the right, they do want you to think about the broader impacts of that work. So while they might not fund clinical research, if you're doing basic scientific research that could have a potential clinical application, they still want you to think about that. And in NSF jargon, that is called the broader impact section, and that is a part of their review criteria. They also have cross-disciplinary and directorate initiatives, and something I want you all to pay particular attention to are Dear Colleague letters. So these help to give a little bit more context to their funding opportunities. And if, for example, they haven't received a funding opportunity in a particular area, they might let you know via a Dear Colleague letter. Or if they're slightly changing their interpretation of part of the NOFO, or they're adding something. If there's another type of special initiative, it will always be published in a Dear Colleague letter. So don't exclude them from your searches when you're looking for funding opportunities. And once you've identified one, make sure you're subscribed to that award information. So if a relevant Dear Colleague letter comes out, you'll be the first to know. You can also use NSF's award search to look up funded grants. Okay, NIH. This is, if we thought NSF was complex, it's about to get even more complex. The NIH is notoriously large. There are lots of institutes within the NIH, and they all pivot around the office of the director. NSF has a complex mission, and of course, fundamental knowledge, basic science is part of that, but they are much more interested in clinical applications. They want to see novel and interesting approaches to complex problems, specifically to promote health across the country. So this is where you see the language of creative discoveries, innovative research. In both NSF and NIH, they want to fund the next big thing. If you go to their trainings, they'll advertise specifically how their investments have led to a variety of innovations that we don't even think twice about. So, like I said initially, there are other sources of funding from the federal government. At Idaho State, those can come from HRSA, the Health Resources and Services Administration, the Department of Energy, NOAA, the U.S. Department of Defense, and I realize now I have two Department of Energy things. I meant one of them to be a DoD. But anyway, we also have ARPA-H, and ARPA is a defense component. So there are lots of federal sources, and thankfully, there is one great place to look for federal grants, and that's grants.gov. So some of the key things to do with grants.gov, I mentioned create an account. And for those who haven't had the pleasure, creating an account with the federal government can take time. Don't wait to the last minute. Do it when you have some downtime, and you can sit down with a quality cup of coffee and just spend the time doing all of the government confirmations that you need to do. There you can search for federal grants. This is some information about how we're going to browse. I'm going to do a demo shortly, so I won't read over it, but I'll send out the slides for anybody who's interested. But you can do all of this on the grants.gov website. And let's see. Can you all still see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank
Yes,
you.
we can.
Okay. So this is what the search box looks, or the search box. This is what grants.gov looks like. We can do keyword searches here at the top. But before we even put in our keywords, there are, like I said, tons of agencies, so a ton of grants. I don't know if it, so we can see there are over 2,000 posted grants and 500 forecasted grants. Forecasted means they're letting you know that they are preparing a NOFO for that grant. So if you know you're going to need tons and tons of time, you can look at just forecasted opportunities. But here we'll look at both. You have a couple of options. Typically, you're always going to want to select a grant. In some cases, you might want to select a cooperative agreement. A cooperative agreement is similar to a grant, however, it's much more service focused. So sometimes they will want to stand up a particular type of supportive institute. Maybe it will be one where technical assistance is given for grant recipients. It's, unless you're really excited about being an administrator, chances are you're going to want to stick in the grant funding area. The next thing I want you to look at are the eligibility. So if we scroll down here, we can look at public or state-controlled institutes of higher education. And so we can see that is about the same as the number of grants. If you know there's a certain funding instrument, maybe via a particular type of legislation like the Affordable Care Act, that would fund your work, feel free to check it. I rarely use this function because you would be surprised at who funds what, particularly when we think about the other agencies beyond NIH and NSF. So for in grants.gov searching, I'm going to let 1,000 flowers bloom and look at all of the categories, at least to start. And then we can look by different departments. So they have quite a few grants here. And then we might want to put in, once that's done, we'll put in our keywords and say we want to look at artificial intelligence. And for those who don't know me, I'm a horrible speller. So we can see there is a NIH award. So we can start interestingly, you might have thought we were going to get a lot of NSF, but here we can see actually a lot of the applications are NIH or ARC, which is similar to ARPA. There's a lot of interest in this. So that might also mean if you're a computer science researcher interested in artificial intelligence or machine learning applications, you probably have lots of potential collaborators in the CASISCA Division of Health Sciences. We have humanities grants available that are forecasted. So really no, there are lots of applications for different areas. This is a great place to get started looking for federal grants, but federal grants are only part of the picture. So with that, think about it. I mean, we have lots of other places, the Mellon Foundation, the Idaho Women's Community Foundation, the Minerva Group, American Council of Learned Societies. So where would you find these grants? It's not going to be on grants.gov. It's going to be on Grant Forward. And for those who don't know, you can all use this service. ISU is already paying for your access. So I'm going to do a little bit of a tutorial on this one as well. They host trainings. I will always make sure those are listed in the grants newsletter that come out from our office. And you're welcome to attend trainings hosted by Grant Forward. I'm learning and providing some trainings as I go as well. So let's hop out of the presentation and go right to Grant Forward. This is what Grant Forward looks like. You won't have all of these functions because I'm an administrator, so I get to see a little bit more. But we can see here, they always have new opportunities coming up. We have a mix of federal and private grants. Also, academic institutions might be offering grants. So if you need to go to a particular library, there might be grants that support research there. State agencies that support research or programs, you can find those grants here. So let's look at artificial intelligence again. And I'll say when you go to Grant Forward and you're making your account, all you need is your ISU email address. So here, um, I like to use the advanced keyword search. And in part, this is, so you can see here, I made another spelling mistake. And Grant Forward, grants.gov, the search tool, the functionality is a little bit more sensitive to natural language. It's a little bit more forgiving if you make a mistake in spelling. With Grant Forward, it really helps to make sure you're using the right keywords. We're going to talk a little bit about how to do that better momentarily. But I almost always use the advanced keyword search. So you can think of this as your and box, everything that's necessary. Um, this can be any of the keywords. So if I were to put artificial intelligence and machine learning, it would only pull up grants that mention both of those phrases. If you want artificial intelligence or machine learning, you're going to want to use any of the keywords. And if it's kind of bringing up topics that you're not interested in. Say you're a humanities researcher thinking about the ethics of artificial intelligence, you could say none of the keywords. So maybe you want to avoid words like health. Then I recommend for Grant Forward to browse the application and read it really carefully because it's only matching keywords. It doesn't always do a good job of getting you exactly what you want. So you'll have to probably sift through in a little bit more of an active way, but you can still sign up for, you can still save information, add funders to favorites, and really build a tailored group of funding opportunities. You can also look at closed awards. You can do this in grants.gov as well. And that's helpful if you're looking for awards. Maybe they have annual awards. Um, and you're not going to apply now, you're not looking for something to apply now, you're just trying to get a list of funders together, check out the awards that are closed. See if those funders fund annually around the same time every year. That will give you a chance to plan ahead. Particularly for folks who received small internal grants this year, you might be thinking, how do I leverage that for next year? This can be a way for you to start planning ahead. So here we see when the grant is due, amount, eligibility information. So a little bit here. This one, only US citizens, submission info. All of these, again, we're going to go through sponsored programs. So we can look for different types of sponsors. So maybe we only want to look at foundations. We can only look at corporate. This is also a great tool to find scholarships for the grad students attending. You can look at applicant locations and activity locations. So if you know you're going to do research in, say, Chicago, you can put grants here, and that might help pull up funders who are interested in funding work there, even though you're based here in Idaho. Citizenship status is important, and limited submissions means that an institution might only be able to submit 1 to 4 awards. That's something that my office will handle. If you ever come across a limited submission, let me know. We might have to do an internal competition, but that's not for today. You can also search by deadline. So if you know you only want to look at awards that are due at the end of summertime, we can take a look for those. So lots of opportunities still. And again, you'll see some of the same programs that we saw on grants.gov here. So this has everything on grants.gov. I just like looking at grants.gov if I know I'm looking only at federal opportunities because I think it's a little bit easier to use, but that's up to you all. We also have an NSF specific search engine and an NIH specific. So if you know you're only looking for NIH awards, you can go there as well. I'll put those in the chat at the end. All right, let's go back to our presentation. So some tips and tricks for Grant Forward. We talked about this already. Always use the advanced keyword search. I think it is absolutely essential once you start digging in and you're really trying to fine tune what the search results say. I use the filters a little more sparingly. I take a look at everything before I start applying filters because I found that the filters got rid of things that maybe it shouldn't have. um, I also recommend, this is, I think, a really great application of ChatGPT. You can use ChatGPT to help think of keywords that are related to your area of interest. So I put in artificial intelligence. It's such a hot topic right now. Lots of things are going to come up. If your research is, and it probably is, more narrow than one of the most important topics happening right now, you're going to want to think of every possible different type of phrase that you can use to really scour that database. So, depending on your comfortability with ChatGPT, you can use sections from your public abstract that might already be available. So you just have to worry about intellectual property. And you can engineer your prompt with ChatGPT. Tell it that you're using a database. Tell it that it doesn't have good natural language processing, and talk back and forth and really get it to kind of smooth out those results. And you can really get some quality information. You can also ask ChatGPT to adopt different personalities. So maybe you want ChatGPT to pretend to be an NSF reviewer, and to take information that it knows about NSF and make that relevant to your keyword search. This has been for me a really handy way. Not so I wouldn't, I think the thing with ChatGPT is if it's thinking for you, it will always do a bad job. If you're using it to double check and support your own ideation, then it is a really handy. And so I think in this application, it's a great research tool. In Grant Forward, some of their folks have told me that they are in the process of implementing AI to improve some of the natural language processing, but that's not live now. And, it's until then, it's highly dependent on you getting the terms right. So you really have to do a little bit more of that work up front in order for this tool to be as effective as possible for you. So again, yeah, I don't love the all box. So when we're thinking about searching for an award, you're going to take a look at the NOFO. We'll look at this in a little bit more detail next time, but I would be remiss to not talk to you all a little bit about the notice of funding opportunity today. So the NOFO, if we were to zoom way out and take the 30,000-foot view, it's the end product of the agency's answer to the question, who is best able to achieve this work? They are proposing to have a professional relationship with the PI where you're getting support to do a project and they are getting a particular outcome that's going to come out of that. It could be a scientific advancement, it could be a creative work, it could be something in between. But you really want to work to make sure you're giving them what they want. We're going to dive into this in the next slide in a bit more detail. Other things, the first thing I always do, check eligibility, review due dates, and review the project requirements to ensure the workload is feasible. It might be, and I had a conversation with a faculty member this morning where the award was so perfect for her research, but it just wasn't feasible for her to go after that award to, right now. We'll build up to it. But those are all things to think about. And if there is a really exciting, major award on your topic, there's probably going to be a smaller award and we just need to dig to find it. Ask questions, attend the training sessions. So there's almost always a point of contact. And when we have questions and we're not sure about fit for the project or eligibility, let's always reach out. That's something my office can help with if you're unsure of how to begin. Um, and importantly, program directors want to help you. They want you to fund the they want you to find the right funder. So if they're not the best fit, they might be able to recommend somebody who is and connect you with the right person at the right time. And review recordings. They offer trainings. If you miss that, typically the recording is posted. Watch it. Um, they really do a great job answering questions and explaining some of the technical components. So another best practice, show alignment. What do I mean by this? Remember when we at the very beginning talked about NSF and NIH's mission? We really want to think about how well the mission of those organizations aligns with our mission, both our mission as a PI, but also the institution that you work for. And you really need to ask yourself about the funder's intention. Um, Sometimes an idea, it sort of fits, but if we are shoehorning it, in my opinion, it is almost always obvious. And it's best practice not to force a proposal. If it's not a good fit, what we absolutely do not want to happen is for you to spend months and months working on a proposal, develop a strong, really well-reasoned proposal that just doesn't meet the basic criteria. So we're always going to do that early work and make sure that it is the right fit for you before going forward. So thinking about how the mission of the funder aligns with our mission is really important. And sometimes we want to explicit, depending on the funder, if it is a foundation, it's almost always beneficial to specifically say how the two missions align. The more thinking you can do for the reviewers, the better. They're typically looking at a lot of applications all at once. So we want to make sure we help them see why they should fund us. And you need to start thinking about that at the point of decision when you're deciding whether or not an award is the right one for you. And so a great way to start looking for grants is to start outlining your project needs. A project might be something that you can complete in a couple of years. It might be something that you work on for your entire academic career. Um, you know, in that case, really in all cases, you're going to want to piecemeal out different components of the award or sorry, different components of your project, understand how each award can advance the overall aim that you have, and be able to articulate that clearly. First of all, that's going to help you generate keywords, but it's also going to help you talk to funders and give them the big idea, the big vision, the end state you're trying to achieve. And that will give them the ability to give you better advice. Ask the funders, what do they fund? Can you find copies of successful proposals? That's something that the Office for Research Development can help you with. Has the funder funded similar projects in the past? If so, consider connecting with those PIs to learn more. Researchers love talking about their research and, they probably don't get to enough. So reach out to those PIs. I'm doing that for some grants I'm interested in. Folks are really excited to connect with you. You can also serve as a reviewer. So say you look at a NOFO and you think, gosh, this just is overwhelming. There's so much to see and do here. Consider serving as a reviewer. That's a great way to read different proposals and get a sense of what they look like. Often, federal agencies have spots open and you can sign up right on their page to be a reviewer. So consider doing that. And before we open it up to questions, I just want to say, we might want to go for a prestigious award like an R01. It is the job of research development, not just to get you ready for the proposal that you're working on immediately, even if that is a small internal grant. It's to help you develop the trajectory that's going to get you to your dream award. We might map out a pathway. Your experience might look a little different from that pathway or different from your colleague's pathway. It could vary a little bit. It could vary a lot. There's going to be ups and downs. You're going to get rejections. We're going to develop an award that we can't submit to the agency we thought we could submit to despite our best efforts. And unfortunately, rejection is part of the process. And typically, I put R01 up here. That's a type of NIH award that is really prestigious, and I would love to help folks access. Typically, people are rejected 3 or 4 times before their first R01. So the important thing is to keep your head down, to know that there are some ups and downs along the way, but we're going to get there. So now I'd like to open it up for questions. I'm going to stop sharing and drop some links in the chat and save the date because our next training is going to be on grant writing, and that will be February 18th at 10 a.m. So I know that was a lot of information. Who here has questions? Oh, I see there's been some, yep. So we have a lot of folks who are new to grants, and I gave you guys a ton of information. What do you think? What are your questions? Where can we go from here? Or did I just do such a good job that it's impossible to have a question?
Such a good job. Impossible to have a question. I think for me specifically, like I already have a little bit of experience like in the grant section. So not having seen this like website before was super, super helpful. Knowing that ISU already has access to it is great. That is all like news to me. That's like I'm so thankful for that opportunity and that resource. But I really am excited for the second course so we can kind of dive a little deeper into the grant writing process. So
Thanks, Kaylee. And also I put information in the box to for you guys if to give me some feedback on how I did today, but also to let me know what other topics you want covered. So, and I see Shannon. Oh, thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that. And Tyler asked, how often can a current grad student that will be graduated by award date be considered as a PI? Great question, Tyler. So when you apply for and are awarded a grant, that grant typically, so you might we will our syntactic construction will say you are awarded the grant. ISU is often considered the awarded entity. Um, so if you are planning to graduate by the time the award is made, I think there are two things. One, you can, there are some awards that you can write for yourself that would be for a postdoctoral position. Um, that would be the kind of grant that would support you post graduation. Um, I I would look for those types of, you usually need some type of institutional affiliation. Depending on the department, they might be able to give you an affiliate status to continue working on that, but I wouldn't plan on it. And it's certainly something that the reviewers are going to want to know. However, an ideal award for somebody who is at the point of graduation would be an early career award, a postdoctoral appointment. Um, so we would target looking for awards that are designed to really help you move to that next phase. And ideally, what we would do is look for a postdoc at a place that will help you take your research to the next level beyond where you did your dissertation. So we could leverage some of the folks who are maybe on your committee to serve in those roles, and apply for a grant that way. That's probably the safest bet in that case. Any other questions? Okay. While I wait, I want to share with you all the link to grants.gov. Oh, I'm surprised nobody else has any other questions. Oh, Kimberly, this is really helpful. Thank you. How can we access the recording and the PowerPoint? Great question. I will post those. We are setting up a research development website. It will be on the Office for Research, and I will link to it in our newsletter so you can access it there. And otherwise, feel free to email me and I can send you the information when it's available. Okay, still processing. And folks, just know as you process this information and start looking, just like applying for grants, looking for grants is an up and down process. So you're going to find things that are really exciting and then don't work, and then things that are really exciting and are a lot of work. And maybe one day you look and there's nothing really there. It's all part of the process. And so don't think that if you looked once and you didn't see anything, that it means that it's gone or it's not there forever. We can continue collaborating and looking, setting up alerts, and doing what needs to be done to find some great funding opportunities for your research.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Oh, you're welcome. And here is the award search for, oh gosh, it's only these windows. I'm always changing keyboards and then I can't use the shortcut features. Okay, so here are the grants at NIH. Here are the grants at NSF. And here is the link for grants.gov. And here is the link for Grant Forward. So everything is there for you all. And I'm going to put my email in the chat for you, or it's just Amy, WUEST at isu.edu. So you can reach out to me with questions and comments. And like I said initially, for the grad students, I am working with the Dean of Graduate Studies in order to develop some training over the summertime for you all. And it will involve some of this, but a bit of extra information. Oh, you're welcome, guys. I'm so happy you've been here, and don't hesitate to reach out, ask questions, and start dipping your toes in. You're welcome. You're welcome, Shelby. You're welcome, Ashley. Thanks for coming, guys. All right. Have a great afternoon, everybody. I'll end this a little bit early, but I appreciate your time and attention.